Hello and welcome back to my channel. If this is your first time here, hi, I'm Cassidy. If it's not, thanks for always tuning into my videos. Today we have a recommendation list. A list of books to read in a cozy fall day. So books to binge read in one day, and it's cozy and it's fall. Does this mean these books are cozy? No, because you're on my channel where we don't really do cozy, but they give me just like that feeling of like intimacy that fall gives you, if that makes sense. Now these go across genre, and I'm not going in any order, so sorry, but if you're here for a recommendation list from Cassidy that works for a bingeable book, here you are. So the requirements for a book to be on this is they have to give me that fall intimacy, that fall vibe. They have to be small enough that you could read in one day, or that they're bingeable enough that you just wouldn't put them down, so you would read them in one day. And here we are. Let's just get right into the list. We're going to start with A Dowry of Blood by S.T. Gibson. This is a beautiful book. Not my usual forte, but I think I gave it 4 or 5 stars. I can't quite remember, but it's beautifully written. It is a reimagining of Dracula's Bride, and it tells the story of Constance and what Dracula does to her, and it's a queer love story. And I don't really know how to explain this to you other than, like, this is such a beautiful book, and I think that other people should read it. Even if you're high fantasy like me, there's something in this book for you, because I absolutely adored it. So, this is my first cozy recommendation for you, or bingeable in one fall day. And there's vampires, so, like, perfect for fall. The next one on this list is Room by Emma Donoghue, another one I absolutely adored. I think I gave it 5 stars. There was a movie adapted from this book, and the movie is also beautifully done and well done. So if you want to read this and then watch the movie for the evening, definitely recommend that. Room is, it's dark, there's some triggers. It's kind of a literary fiction thriller maybe, but not really. Room follows this girl who is stuck in a room in this guy's backyard. It's like a garage, it's just one room, and she has a child with her kidnapper, and she has to figure out how to get out of this room, and kind of has to work through not wanting to leave and what that means, because like she's being held prisoner and she has a child with this man, and she wants more for her child than just this room can give, and it's so beautifully done, and it really hits you in the feels, and I really think that this is a great read for everyone. Yeah, it's got some dark things about it, so as I said, not cozy, but like it's like very intimate with your character and a good character study of people. So I think that this is perfect for a fall bingeable read. It's quite short. I think I read it in one day. It's like about 300 pages. I couldn't put it down. Everyone's probably tired of hearing me talk about this book, but The Swordsman's Lament by G.M. White. This one follows our protagonist, who is the king's champion, and when the prince dies, he is blamed for the prince's death, and he has to prove that it wasn't him. It's a murder mystery in a low fantasy world. I really enjoyed this one. I gave it 4 stars, and I had one heck of a time. Super short, very bingeable. Also, the main character reminds me of the Greatcoats from Trader's Blade, and yeah, definitely read this. This one's definitely a lot longer, but I think that if you're the right reader, it'll be unputdownable. This is Kingdom of Essence by Holly Carlson. This is in SPIFBO currently, SPIFBO 8, and it did make it to the semi-finalist for one vlog. Follows our main character, Elitza, who is a reclamation agent, and this means that she goes and she like tracks down people who have either like rented relics from the big organization, haven't given them back when they're supposed to, or like secret objects and relics, and gets them back for the tower. And her like time period with the tower is almost up, and she has to decide if she's going to renew her job. And it spirals from there, and she kind of learns why the tower might be bad and what it's like protecting and hiding and a bunch of other things about the world. This one is a adult, but I personally think it's a little bit more young adult, and I really enjoyed aspects of this. I gave it 3 stars. I think the magic system is really cool because you like harness essence and like harvest essence from things, and I really enjoyed that about it. And we do have some really cool characters. I think this cover is stunning, and I don't know, I just think that this could be the right fit for someone looking for like a cozier high fantasy read. Here we have this one. Another thing that I didn't like about this one that I think will work for other people is it just wasn't as hard of a magic system as I personally like, but it was still like beautifully done. And then we have Dark Matter by Blake Crouch, which is a sci-fi thriller. This is so easy like to binge. Like, you could not put this one down. We're following a character who ends up in like someone who's not himself, and he has to figure out how to get back to himself and the mystery of why he's here and who he is and all this other fun stuff. I'm trying not to give anything away because it's been so long since I've read the synopsis of this that I don't really know what I can tell you. But if you are looking for a thriller, check this out. If you're looking for something a little bit different, check this out, because that sci-fi thriller blend is perfect, and Blake Crouch does it like no one else. It's chef kiss. I love Blake Crouch, and he is another auto-buy author from me. Then we have the Southern Book Club's Guide to Slaying Vampires by Grady Hendrix. I really adored this book. I gave it 4 stars. I binged it in a day, so you can binge it in a day, and I think fall, again, is the perfect time to pick it up because it is a vampire read. This follows a group of ladies who, they have a book club, and when a new neighbor comes to town, they suspect he might be a vampire, and he might be preying on the children in the town and the victims in the town, and so their book club becomes a place to kind of talk about the vampire and how to get rid of the vampire. It's so fun. Grady Hendrix does camp so well. I also, when I first read this, wasn't expecting such deep discussions on racism, and I loved every second of it. He does a really good job of talking about those things, and I really just suggest reading this book. I really adored it. I think it's fun and deep and meaningful, but also fun and quirky. And I mean, the title says it for itself. This cover is beautiful. You should definitely read this. I think this is my highest priority, like, if you were to pick something to read this one off this list. And then we have Sand by Hugh Howey, which is a dystopian sci-fi. In this, we are following a kind of a family. We're following a family, but in this world, sand just keeps covering and covering and covering the planet. So essentially picture our world just buried in sand, and the sand just keeps covering and covering and covering. So you can only live in a house so long before it's covered in sand. And this family, one of the children in this family makes its living by sand diving, which is taking oxygen tanks and diving deep under the sand to look for like relics of the past, because all of our buildings are like under that sand. And he stumbles into more than he expects, and it just kind of goes from there. It's also trying to figure out why the sand is always coming, why it can't ever be stopped. And I really, really enjoyed this one. I think I also gave it 4 stars. It's really short novella, easy to binge, and dystopian reminds me of fall for some reason and spooky season. So I think that it's the perfect time to read a dystopian book, even though it's like technically like covered in sand, so it feels like a little bit hot. But I definitely really adored this one, and I think that you should read it. And then we have There Are No Saints by Sophie Lark, which is a dark romance. So I told you this list would be all over the place. This is a 5-star read from me. Super bingeable. Like, it's so unputdownable, bingeable, easy to read in a day. This is a serial killer romance, and we're following a serial killer who kind of has like a competition with another serial killer, and then finds like a girl that he thinks is interesting and kind of becomes obsessed and stalks her and doesn't want to kill her, but then the other serial killer wants to kill her and he has to like protect her, and it's just like a really wild time. It's a lot of fun. I highly adored it. This is the book that made me into a slight romance girly, like slight. I mean, if I can give a romance book 5 stars, so can you, is how I feel. Because like a year ago, I would have told you I ain't touching romance with a 10-foot pole. And here I am recommending it to you because There Are No Saints is beautiful. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. And I really enjoyed the smut in this one. I think that there's lots of interesting aspects done with like art and creativity, because our main female character is like a starving artist. And then we have like the rich serial killer artist, and it's beautifully done, and you should read it. Let's swap on over to fantasy again. We have The Fall by Ryan Cahill. This is technically a prequel novella, and I read it after the first book, because you can technically read this between either before book 1 or after book 1, and it just follows dragons, dragon riders, and it tells you what happened in the world. I don't even know how to explain this to you, but if you're looking for like dragon companion, dragon riders, dragon, and like military, it essentially is just like 150 pages or so of like this battle that turned the world into what it was, and you really see like the connections break, connections start. I think it's beautifully written. It kept me on the edge of my seat every single second of it. 5 stars. And if you're looking for just like a short fantasy read that works perfectly for fall and one day reads, this is one for you. And then I'm going to do All Systems Red by Martha Wells, I think it is. Sorry if I got that wrong. This is the Murderbot Diaries #1. I gave this 3 stars. It was just mediocre for me, but I know so many people who love it. And I think if you like a more wholesome read than I do, you'll like this. This follows Murderbot, who wants to spend his days just like watching shitty reality TV and not doing any work. But of course he has to work, and he's like built to work, but he's hacked his internal computer so that he now controls himself instead of like the humans controlling himself, but he's still gotta like play the act that someone's commands are like working on him. And you just kind of follow him and like a little bit of conspiracy that happens with his team, and it's just like funny humor. Murderbot is like a great character in terms of like comedy and relating to him. Like I totally related to the person who doesn't want to work at all. Also, he's murdered a couple times. I don't relate to that, but like the not wanting to work, I got you, Murderbot. We're on the same wavelength. My computer doesn't work sometimes too. I think that this is such a quick read. It's sci-fi, it's fun, it's something different, and I think it could get you out of a slump, but also perfect for like a cozy fall day. And then we have Clown in a Cornfield by Adam Cesar. This is a fun slasher YA horror. This one revolves around these kids that go into a cornfield, and there's a slasher, like a clown slasher. I can't really tell you more than this. Like, I don't know how to explain this book without giving things away to you, because I feel like it's not about a clown in a cornfield, but it is about a clown in a cornfield, which makes no sense to you. But I absolutely adored this first book. It is a series. I gave the first and the second 4 stars. The second was just in a vlog that came out last week where I read clown books. This one is not super scary. I always compare it to Scream, and if you can watch Scream, you can read this book, and I think that even less scary than like Scream is, because you're not getting like the jump scares that movies do to you. But yeah, I think that this is just such a fun time. Classic camp and slasher and a little bit of gore. And I loved our characters. It's YA, so it's easier to read, and it's less dark, even though it's horror. And yeah, I don't know how to tell you to read this book, but please go read it. And it's perfect, especially getting into spooky season. The closer to Halloween, you can binge this in a day easily. I binged both of those books in one day. Perfect. Amazing. Chef's kiss. Please read. Move on. And there we have it. Those are my books to read in a cozy fall day. Whether that means they're cozy, whether that means they're just bingeable, whether that means they're short, you tell me. Thank you so much for watching. If you made it all the way to the end of this video and you'd like to leave me an emoji just to say you were here, leave me an apple emoji. And if you'd like to connect with me on other platforms, my Bookstagram, my book Twitter, my Goodreads, and my Patreon are all linked in the description bar below. Have yourselves an absolutely remarkable day, or a spooktacular day.